Let's talk about R1 million life cover, 50,000 for funeral and 800,000 disability cover for only 397 Rand a month. SMS plan to 38925. One life, changing lives.
Dumelang Sanbonani Absheni. We are here today to have an uncomfortable conversation, but one that is very valuable. One that affects our past, our present, and our future. Welcome to Where's My Wealth? Powered by One Life. I'm your host, Dineo Ranaga. I do not tread alone though. I'm joined today by actress, TV personality, entrepreneur Candace, entrepreneur and financial expert Gerald, activist and artist Ntsigi, businessman and actor Kabelo, as well as TikTok sensation Siviwe, and all the way from Atlanta, I've got Samge, who is joining us. She is a financial expert and businesswoman. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Generational wealth, a big topic, very, very big topic, quite a sensitive one. One Life recently ran a survey, and the survey reveals that 77% of South Africans do not enjoy generational wealth, whereas 61% of South Africans don't know where to start to create generational wealth. Candace, I'm going to start with you.
It's a very difficult concept to come by and understand. I think it's one that we haven't had access to as far as information is even concerned. So the concept of generational wealth is very foreign, especially to our community as Black individuals. So as far as I've really come into it, and probably a lot later into my life, I never acquired generational wealth. I mean, I grew up in a home where I was raised by a single mother. Yeah. But I think it's just really transferring outside of just financial wealth, but also just cultural wealth, assets, as well as knowledge sharing and information sharing, and really allowing that to transcend not only my individual wealth, but also those that get to interact with me. Yeah,
Gerald, how do you define generational wealth for yourself?
Well, generational wealth is usually ascribed to a name or a person or a family. So to me, what is the value of your name? What is the value of your family? So to me, it's the aggregate value of everyone who represents that name. Because essentially, someone who shares my name, who follows me, my descendant, or someone who inherits my wealth, is sharing in my wealth, is sharing in that generational wealth. So to me, I'd ask you, what's the value of your family name? What's the value of your heritage?
Sure. Ziggy, big one that he just left there.
Indeed. You know, for me, I find that there are conversations that Black people are not ready to have yet, because they don't know the experience of generational wealth. We come from a very political history where we were dispossessed as a people. So we don't know what we're talking about today. When you speak generational wealth to white people, they know because they've got their grandmother's farm, go guy, they've got this, they've got the unit trust, the trust fund family, whatever. So for me, I think that this conversation is important today, much like the conversation around the economy, where Black people are like, oh, our economy, but you're not even in the economy.
Sure.
So for me, where is the generational wealth?
Kabelo, where is the generational wealth? What is it?
Generational wealth would be, practiced, principles that bear fruit, that you pass on from generation to generation. They include wealth. They include principles about service. They include principles about health, about spirituality. It's lived out principles that produce fruit that are passed on from generation to generation.
I think that's very well articulated. Siviwe?
It's a touchy subject for me, because I don't come from a wealthy family, you know what I mean? My mother is, I was raised by a single mother. Also. My father, well, she was never there for me.
You don't even have to be wealthy, that's the thing. Just being Black. We don't have our wealth. It's been taken from us.
Like you said.
You know what I'm saying?
Which is really true.
I'm going to go to Atlanta. Samke, generational wealth, what does it mean to you?
Generational wealth to me is simply tangible and intangible assets that can be converted into resources, whether those are monetary or not monetary, in order to meet the needs of the individuals of that generation and subsequent generations if no one would add to them.
Sure, there we go, another articulation of what generational wealth is. And Ziggy, I'm going to start with you, right? You once posted on your blog, and I won't quote you verbatim, but you posted along the lines of, you know, we were raised as a Black people to look for work and find a job, right? And we weren't raised to create jobs, which is a very, very powerful point. Do you think generational wealth is real? And also with that thought process, right? What of the concept that, but we're not all designed to create employment? We're not all designed to be at the forefront of entrepreneurship.
You know, it makes me sad when people speak like that, because no other race is having that conversation of, we're not all designed to be entrepreneurs. What is wrong with you, Black child, that you think that you're not creative enough to find your talent and monetize it?
We grew up with a Commonwealth system where we stayed in a village, and in that village we had our cattle, we had our crops, and everyone had a function. There was a family which was known to be the spiritualists. There was a family which was known to be the healers. There was a family which was known to be the fighters. And in fact, when a man married different wives, each wife had a function, and we all shared that wealth because it was a common wealth, and that wealth belonged to the family. Therefore, I ascribe to the fact that what's the value of your family? Because when we were in a village, we were all sharing the same name. Therefore, when they said the Ranakas, people knew that the Ranakas are the ones with 400 cattle, they've got a granary, I'd like to marry into that family. The problem is we've adopted a Western nuclear wealth system where it's me, me, me. And suddenly we've had that disconnect. And also the fact that we're disenfranchised of land means that we lost our ability to create wealth.
Samke, I'm going to come to you in Atlanta there. You have an opinion, and you know that it's not about race, it's about class. Don't you just want to break that down for us?
Wealth inequality, we tend to make it focus on the racial inequality. But what I'd like to also consider is that what we're finding in South Africa even is that, you know, you're now also having inequality that is driven by classism, inequality that is driven by who you know, who knows you, and where you're having inequality even amongst Black people. So yes, we have the historical inequality, which is driven by race, but we need to be careful not to come out the other side where we then find that there's actually even racial inequality within Black people themselves. And so how do we prepare everyone in South Africa to have the ability and the access to create wealth for themselves, regardless of their background, regardless of whether or not they're politically connected, regardless even of the type of education they had, but rather looking at their skills and their talents.
Look, I appreciate the fact that you've raised this because, you know, and I love where this dialogue is going now, because obviously we cannot, it's impossible to somewhat think of wealth without attaching it to politics, right? And the politics of politics, right?
Especially in South Africa.
Especially in South Africa. But then also, she's raising a very valid point. For how long are we going to hold on to this burden that we've carried over the years, that we've been disenfranchised? Yes, we have been. So we're going to take a quick ad break. When we return, we're returning with the dialogue around black tax. Another heated one. Join us on Twitter. Run with the hashtag Where's My Wealth. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about 500,000 Rand life cover, 500,000 for disability, 400,000 dread disease, and 50,000 for funeral for only 390 Rand a month. SMS plan to 38934. One life, changing lives.
Welcome back to Where's My Wealth on SABC1. Don't you forget to keep the dialogue going on twitter.com using the hashtag Where's My Wealth. Still with my panel. Left off on a very heated note, back with more heat, talking about black tax. And black tax, it's a very interesting thing because the way a lot of us understand it. To an African child, when you are educated for the entire village, right? And literal activist Lorraine Sithole, she describes it to the BBC as saying that it is you know, what a black child owes to their family. Siviwe, and I want to start with you because you are operating in a generation of new age exposure. Is it an obligation that with your TikTok success, you have to pay it forward back to the family?
So my mother was a teacher. She worked hard for us. She stopped working. And then that was me to actually step in and start doing my thing. So I started making videos, I think 2016. And then 2017, I started making money, from my
the videos. Yeah.
So my mother's unemployed. I got 3 siblings that are in like high school. They need fees and books, uniform, everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I stopped because I was working. I made my money. I was like, you know what, go and the phone imali am ndodwa. You know what I mean? Because the family even you know what I mean? And when you say, do I feel obligated to give to, so it's not an obligation, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you need, at some point you need to take care of your family. You know what I mean? It's not something that's like a burden. No, it's not about like even me now, like I just send my mother like imali. You know what I mean? And I would send it literally like 90% of imali.
So you would say it's a token of pride for you?
Yes.
Lovely. I like that. I like it. Kabelo, let's elaborate. Black tax, where are we with this in your mind space?
I think it's a privilege, and it's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
It really is all perspective, It's a privilege you get to. People have gone before you. I think of my mom and the sacrifices that they made. When I get an opportunity to assist, I mean, what a pleasure, right? And then throw in a spiritual principle. For as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest time, you reap what you sow. It's like, then let's get sowing, guys. That's kind of how I approach it.
Samke, you had a different view in our first segment of the show. You were talking about us not, politicizing generational wealth so much and not making it a racial issue. Let's make it more of a classist issue and a different sort of issue. Where are you in terms of black tax?
Very emotional topic.
Yeah.
And because I sit and actually consult with individuals who are employed at South Africa's big companies and try to help them with their financial distress, for me and from my vantage point in wanting to help my clients first, I always say when you are helping in terms of helping family, what we call black tax, which is not just the preserve of black people, by the way, different races face, the obligation or the need to help their family members. I say it needs to be at the point where one, you are comfortable, and only to the point where you are comfortable assisting. And number 2, at the point where it is driven by guilt, then that is abusive.
Sure. Samke, you have taken it literally to the psychological side of the fence, right? Where it becomes abusive, where it becomes toxic. Gerald, I'm going to go straight to you on this one. You have a preference to call it the sandwich generation versus black tax. How do we elaborate on this? Help us understand what a sandwich generation is.
Look, a sandwich generation is basically people who have to look after their own children whilst having to look after their elders. Now,
there's right there in the middle.
So you're in the middle, like a part of a sandwich.
Yeah.
But to me, black tax is simply family responsibility, as Kabelo said it is. It's a source of pride. When my parents passed on, I looked after 4 girls. I was 21. I literally would pay 80-90% of my salary, but I was happy. My sisters were living a better life than I knew because they're that much younger than me. We need to take it away from this black thing because it's what racializes it and makes us take our accountability away from ourselves. Other families, other cultures, they have family traits, family trades, which they grow up into doctors, lawyers, a family of shopkeepers, storekeepers. That then speaks back to the whole generational wealth thing, that the families are remaining connected because they have a common goal and a common purpose. Therefore, they end up starting family trusts and ways of passing down generational wealth. And that's the disconnect we find. And my challenge perhaps is to your generation, Candice, where, a lot of young people I speak to say, I didn't ask to be born.
That's also toxic. That's reverse toxic talk, but we'll get to that one. Ziggy, your nods are very loud.
We have been socialized by Ebulu. By going to these white schools, we've been practically brainwashed into seeing black people through white people eyes. So the fact that Kulmangabo black tax and other cultures don't have Indian tax, white tax, Caucasian tax, speaks to, there's a wound in the Black, and it all comes back to being dispossessed. For as long as the economy is not split up in a way that's equal, it's not going to be sustainable for us. So even when Makulma and Indians who don't have land, that's a minority. Tina, the majority of us don't have land.
Kabelo, you wanted to say something.
So look, as much as that needs to happen, my conviction is I need to then deal with my life, my community, from an insular perspective. What can I do with the knowledge that I know? Like there's stuff that I can pass on. And it goes back to my initial comment about let's not, as much as wealth includes material, which includes land and money, it's not all. It doesn't make up all of wealth, right?
Samke, I see you reacting there. Let's get your opinion on black tax.
I very much believe in a multi-pronged approach. So I'm not going to discount anything Unsiki has said, but I'm going to say, in as much as we look at the past and what the past has done to hold us back as Black people from being able to generate wealth, we also need to look at the current opportunities for us to generate wealth. Just 2 days ago, there's someone on the digital cryptos who held a CryptoPunk NFT for 26 minutes and made $1.2 million US from holding NFTs. So again, there's opportunity for us to make money in the digital era, in the crypto era. That we're going to spend our energy looking at the past. Only wait, let me finish, because I'll let you finish looking at the past. Or are we going to say, as much as yes, there are things from the past to be redressed? And in fact, if we've got time, I'd like us to consider how well that worked for the people of Zimbabwe. But I'll park that point. We should also be looking at the future and the future opportunities that exist for us to make money, and not just kind of be shackled by our past and what our past meant for us.
Well, I'm going to step in here and move us to a quick ad break. Hashtag Where's My Wealth on Twitter. Gerald, we will address your comments after the break. South Africa, talk to us. We're on SABC 1 right now. We are powered by One Life. Hashtag once again. Hashtag Where's My Wealth. It is very emotional. It is very psychological. It is very political. And it's very personal. This is the discussion that we're unpacking today. We'll be right back after this.
Let's talk about R1 million in life cover and 30,000 for funeral for only 360 Rand a month. SMS plan to 38934. One Life, changing lives.
Welcome back to Where's My Wealth, powered by One Life. SABC 1 is where we are, and you are on Twitter running the hashtag Where's My Wealth. Dineo Ranaka and our panel. Gerald, I'm coming straight to you, my friend. We were talking before the break about black tax, and I did say I'll come back to you. What are your thoughts?
Kabelo, Nsiki, everyone's talking about knowledge, culture. It's part of wealth. So, it's about education. Wealth creation is intentional. It's not an accident. So we need to also start embracing the thought in terms of saying, what are we doing to create wealth? Money is created every day. So if I have a chair which is worth 10 Rand and I fix it up and I sell it for 40 Rand, where did the other 30 Rand came from? I created it. So we need to move away from this thing that the money in the world is limited. You're on TikTok and you're making money out of nothing. So we need to realize that wealth is about education as well. What are we educating ourselves in terms of our family values and what we believe in? So your family responsibility is two ways. Are we also educating our youngsters around what our families stand for so that they feel no responsibility when they look after their elders?
You know what I've got an issue with?
What?
I've got a problem with black privilege. The privileged blacks, when they've got access.
Yeah. Well, that's attitude. That's absolutely attitude. Yeah.
So when they've got access, then they think that black suffering ended for everybody. We were talking earlier on body crypto, what. People in the rural areas are not even on Twitter, not even on Facebook.
Okay.
So if we're going to speak about body crypto, what, how do we level out the playing field?
But that's my next question to you. I understand the privilege conversation, and we are very privileged to be here.
Yes.
And if you're not sensitive, you can forget about the have-nots. But surely then, if we are in a position to make money out of thin air, to be in a position that we're in, the purpose of making the money, which speaks to the attitude to money that we need to have with regards to money, is so that we can go uplift those people. So we need to
But we're not. Supposed to have champagne, sending
Emma Billing, may I please intervene here and just, let's highlight to everyone that an attitude towards money is a personal thing, right? Yeah. And it can be influenced by your background. It can be influenced, but the minute you are exposed to everything outside of what influences you, I'm entitled to post a champagne if I want to.
Yes.
You understand? I'm entitled to post clothing if I want to. And if like the new generation, because I think their attitude towards money is very different.
Yeah.
Candace and
But how are we going to accrue generational wealth if we're buying things that you can throw away?
Let me speak to that. I think it's imperative that my generation, I speak for the people in the younger 20s going to the older 30s, right? Because I'm smack bam in the middle, 27. Yeah. It's so important.
25 is in the middle.
It's imperative that we readjust the lens through which we view wealth and success. It is not all right. It's not in any way progressive if we associate wealth directly with lifestyle. And it's ironic because and it may be a little bit contradictory because I am in that space that that resides in lifestyle and brand and positioning. But Gerald and I were actually having a conversation before this, and I was saying, I find it very frustrating that I have 16-year-olds DMing me saying, Candace, where do I get that wig? Where do I get that bag? Where do I get this? And it's not to say desirability is not something that they shouldn't aspire to. There's certain things that you want for yourself, and I'm not invalidating that for young people. But why, as a 16-year-old, are you aspiring to a life of a 27-year-old? And that, for me, becomes hyper problematic.
It's natural.
That's something. No, guys,
I'm saying aspiration is natural.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm not invalidating that. But that's what I'm saying. Before we get product, they need to understand process. And that's where education needs to come in. That I say, this was my process. This is how I got here.
Sivuwe, where do you create your content from? Are you creating content from the burbs or in the townships?
I was raised in the townships, but I moved to the burbs.
You moved to the burbs?
Yeah, so I stay with my mother, Ekaya, but I recently moved to Shozi like a month ago or 2 months ago. And yesterday I moved into my first, apartment. And it goes back to that attitude, what do you do with your money? You know what I mean? Because who make money and then just blow it out. You know what I mean? And there are some people who actually know what to do with their money. I'm not gonna go out tonight with my money and pop champagne. No, I'm not saying don't pop champagnes and stuff like that with your money. You do what you want with your money. It's not mine. Yeah. With my money, I want money to respect. You know what I mean? Because my mindset is just focused on actually growing my money, growing me as umdo, and at the same time, family, I'm like, you cool. You know what I mean?
Can we agree that a lot still needs to be done, right? But we can't say it's not happening in terms of balancing the scales. Because I take offense to you say sihleli la and we're not doing anything. I'll speak for myself. I know what I do. You understand what I'm saying? I know what I do in terms of serving the community, right? There are a big contingent of people who are trying.
If we come down to addressing attitude towards money based on freedom of choice, there are terrible attitudes towards money. We can agree that even when we go to your point and we look at social media and how people post and the content that they post, and you're not wrong in saying that social media is a platform to educate, it's a platform to drive change.
Some people see their deficiencies and then they seek help and they actually do something about it. Some people educate themselves to find out what are the tools that are there to create money out of nothing, So to me, maybe I must be Uncle Bay on TikTok. Get some extra income.
You're past the salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper Bay.
I think it's a beautiful conversation that we're having here today. I mean, everything about money, personal, sensitive, we name it. But it's so eye-opening, it's so enlightening, and it's so spirit-awakening as well. if we discuss it correctly. So next, when we come back after the break, we're going to be talking about whether or not we are doing all it takes to protect our wealth. Probably we'll start in Atlanta with Samke and continue with the rest of the panel. You're watching Where's My Wealth? Keep it on a hashtag on Twitter, right here on SABC1, powered by One Life.
Let's talk about R1 million life cover, 50,000 for funeral and 800,000 disability cover for only 397 Rand a month. SMS plan to 38925. One Life, changing lives.
Welcome back to hashtag Where's My Wealth on SABC1. A very hot panel that we have, highly opinionated people. We're talking now about whether or not we are protecting our wealth enough. And to use an example, South Africa is one of the most expensive places to die. Our funerals cost an arm and a leg. I mean, with me, my attitude is, listen, if you didn't spend $1 million on me when I was alive, and I get this from my grandmother, keep your $1 million when I'm dead. If you don't buy me my flowers when I'm breathing, let there be no flowers at the funeral, because I want to smell the roses. Samke, I'm going to start with you. Here's a question to all of us, right? Do you feel that we are stealing from the next generation, right? Because we don't have life cover, majority of us. We're spending money on cars, houses, clothes, you name it. Then boom, COVID-19 takes you. You've got kids. Many other diseases can take you, and your children are left being raised by their grandparents, which is a lifestyle that they weren't born into, because you birthed them into this beautiful lifestyle that you've worked for, but you didn't work hard enough to protect. Are we thieving from the next generation?
We are, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that speaking about death is taboo in many cultures, not just the African culture, but Indian cultures, Middle Eastern cultures. It's taboo to talk about death. And it's so important to plan for your deceased estate, to plan not only what happens at the time of death, the funeral, which we as South Africans are obsessed about. You know, as South Africans, we are overinsured when it comes to death benefits, but underinsured when it comes to, you know, terminal illness, critical illness, etc. But going back to the question you asked, we definitely are stealing from the next generation, but I think we don't do so intentionally, because we don't even know that we have something to leave the next generation. We do not know that by taking out life cover, we are ensuring that we can settle the debt that is left behind, so that actually our surviving beneficiaries have assets left behind and not debt. So I think if we change our mindset and realize that actually our lives are worth a lot.
We're not doing so intentionally. We're not thieving intentionally because maybe we don't know. Is it fair to say we don't know? In this day and age where there's so much information at our disposal, Gerald, is it fair to say that we don't know? I think we know. I think that, you know, we're so showy offy in our attitude towards lifestyle and money. Priorities. And, we, you know, it follows us even at the hour of death, that we want to show off even when somebody has passed away.
No, I think I would disagree. We don't know.
That's interesting.
The cost of a funeral policy, which is a policy defined by law to pay for the party, which is putting you in the ground, is more expensive than a policy which pays off your bond, your car, and all your debts. And historically speaking, we used to run away from the life policy because there was medicals, HIV tests, etc. But now all those things are covered. So we have no excuses. But the real answer is that most people don't know that you can still have the party and protect the children who remain after that. I think part of it is because we don't also respect our earnings. In terms of, you know, you're talking about respecting your money. Now, for example, you make 10,000 Rand a month and you live for 30 years till you die, okay? Typically speaking, that means you've got about 3 million Rand loosely, which you can earn in your lifetime. So as you walk, you don't carry yourself like a 3 million Rand person. You are busy putting things on your head and dancing and being inebriated. So it's about respecting your money, knowing your worth. Every person who works must know the value of the cash flow and the contribution they will make to their children. And that should be the minimum value your life is insured.
And I just want to add to that, in that I think one of the biggest problems, and it's something that we've all touched on, it's very systemic, but as someone that works a lot in the educational space, I think our curriculum is also failing our children and failing the now generation and generations before.
Yeah.
Because why do we not have conversations around credit scores? Why do we not have conversations around tax? Because you then leave your high school, if you're privileged enough to even go to high school, and you already form part of a minority of people who are privileged enough to have high school qualifications.
Yeah.
But you're leaving that space. You're going to university. You're then leaving university, again, part of a privileged minority, and then you fall into this pool of people that don't even have a concept of about a thing called credit scores and tax, and then life cover. So with you saying we don't know, we genuinely don't. It's not enough to say, yes, there's advertisements that are on, but I think all of this information needs to be made accessible from an basic educational level. I need to be going into high school and know that, you know what, I need a credit score, I need life cover, because our parents don't have this information.
I'm going to put a spanner in the works here and then ask a question on top of the one. Do we really know? Do we not know? Do we care to know?
The average person, Ekasi, is not dealing with money on the same level as somebody like in your position would be.
Very true.
So you need to know that because it's in your world. You need to know your taxes. Tina Ekasi, guys, it's hand to mouth. So it's not the same conversations. Also with the funeral thing, I think we've also moved away from a funeral being a ritual, and the capitalists have moved into the space. So for Tina, it was just to bury somebody, and we used to help each other as a family. We come from a culture where it's communal, where we do things together, we help each other out. But Black people are coming from a place where it was a shame to be Black because you're at the bottom of the barrel. So now we have to show off to each other, which, no, I'm not at the bottom anymore. So that's why funerals are expensive now. That's why Black people have a white wedding and a traditional wedding, and you're like, why?
Sivua, you're agreeing there. Talk to us.
Untegi is talking valid points. That is lalini, you know what I mean? And it's tradition. And as a family, we have to pitch in omnia thing, you know, box and omnia, and you know what I mean? So Ziture. And for me, it's like, why spend so much with funeral, you know? And I'll go back to, because I have a Muslim friend now. And in the Muslim religion,
quick.
Yeah, quick, fastly. You know, if you die now, they bury you now. You know what I mean? And about telling you boxy, then go back no, dog. If you die now, back Mwabe, that's it. You know what I mean?
But so I mean, you know, yes, but Tubakokasi, it's also prioritizing.
I like engaging from a place of truth. There's truth in everything that everyone is saying. There's truth in saying that the townships is lalini, the dynamic is different. There's truth in saying that, you know, maybe one approaches the thought process of it from a privileged perspective, right? There's also truth in saying that maybe I was just ignorant. Because where I reside does not necessarily mean I carry the problems of where I reside. The township is a location stamp, right? A lot of people are living really in the township because they can't get out. A lot of people are living in the township, middle-class lives, because that's where they choose to reside. So we need to get to a space where we can truthfully address this issue of knowledge on the basis not of location, of residential location, but on the basis of contributing factors that are practical, that are fair, that are healthy and realistic to each one individual. Candace, yes.
I think also the ignorance or the lack of information, or just that approach to wanting to not only have the information but share it, comes from also our approach of death. We think we have time. I think a lot of us think we have time. So we assume that, you know, life cover get like one kopeli. Yes, not knowing that life happens and so does death simultaneously. So I know for me, the concept of death is still a foreign concept. Things like writing a will, it's a foreign and also a Western concept. So we need to marry these things into how we engage on a general level and how we make it. We need to speak the language of the people.
There's statistics which are always spoken about, which say 6 to 8% of South Africans are saving enough to retire comfortably. If you look also at the life insurance statistics, they say only 8% of the life insurance policies remain in force for their duration. So a lot of people start it, but then they leave it along the way. Now, that 6 to 8% number also strongly correlates with the previously advantaged groups. Okay. Now, it speaks to the fact that money and wealth is discussed in families.
Yes.
It is generational. The knowledge is generational. Yes. So it's an experience to receive an inheritance. Therefore, it's not difficult for you to do the right thing. And I think our biggest difficulty for us as previously disadvantaged groups is we haven't seen the experience of a wealth transfer from one generation to the next. In African culture, our children were a life insurance policy. But in reality now, children are going all over the world. You're stuck on your own.
We don't necessarily want to be stuck on our own. We definitely want to move forward together in this money dialogue. Going to take one more ad break, and when we return, we're talking about moving forward. Hashtag Where's My Wealth on SABC One. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about funeral cover. For you, umyeni, nabantwana, for only 308 Rand a month. SMS Funeral to 40435. One life, changing lives.
Welcome back to hashtag Where's My Wealth on SABC One, powered by One Life. We've gone back, forth, pillar to post, caught to the middle of it with this conversation around generational wealth. From every conflict, there has to be a resolution to move forward for the betterment of self and for the betterment of community. Samke, I want to start with you on this one. What are your thoughts about moving forward? Where can we start?
Absolutely, Dineo. I'm someone that believes in taking accountability and having the buck stop with them in terms of their financial well-being and outcome. And so one of the reasons I'm actually coming to you from Atlanta is because I want to gift my children with options. I want to gift them with global mobility. I want to gift them with dual citizenship and dual passports so that if the US, for instance, presents more opportunities for them to create and carve out the life that they want, they're able to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I want to start with the youngest ones in the panel, or on the panel rather.
Okay.
You almost threw me off there. I literally nearly took you seriously. let's go to you and your thoughts. Or should we say ladies first? Let's go ladies first. Let's go ladies first.
I've been blessed enough to take a step away from the television space, which I'd been doing for a couple of months, to focus a lot more on my youth development and vocational training company, Buseta Media. But in that, I've also wanted to specialize primarily in the arts because I know that we lack a lot of fundamental support and structure in the artistic space. But that being considered, it's important that we provide platforms of education.
Siviwe, on your side of the fence, what's your parting point?
Honestly, when I came into the industry, I started with videos, you know what I mean? And I was good at that. That was my speciality, and I was doing videos. So as I grew as a person and as a brand, a lot of people were hitting me up, you know, people wanted me to do stand-up comedy, do this and that. So with me, I'm a person who, I love exploring things, you know what I mean? Like, I loved like testing my limits, like how far can I go, and what more can I actually do to actually, you know, grow as a person mentally and actually, you know, spiritually, you know? So for me, it's basically about growing and about just testing your limits and how far you can go with
Love that.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's basically that.
Gabelo?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so, you know, there's the macro issues, you know, which Ntigi, I think, very passionately spoke about that need to be addressed, right? But I kind of, through my comments, alluded to, you know, focusing on the micro, you know, my family and my community. Also connecting, very much connecting their advancement, you know, to a bigger purpose than themselves. And that purpose has definitely got to do with serving and lifting people up.
Ziggy, I'm coming to you now.
So moving forward, I want the Black privileged to start having conversations with the white capital owners on how are we going to uplift Black people as a whole. It's not enough to have less than 10% black middle class called black diamonds. We are past first black, what. Again, we cannot be living in a country where we as a majority don't even own 1% of the economy. Not even 1%, guys. Not even, we don't feature.
So my takeout is simply we need to educate ourselves, empower ourselves, and normalize money conversations around the table. And we also need to listen to the youth. As far as I can be prescriptive to my children, I learn more from my 7-year-old and 12-year-old every day.
I like that.
I mean, they show me different types of wealth I had never even thought of. The other day, she said for her birthday, she wanted to fly. And she went on her first solo flight. And then I was like, you know what? She's normalized dreaming of owning a plane when I normalized dreaming of being on a plane. So we need to start accepting that we all are different in our different generations, but the common goal should be we should stay united. You can look at me and say, I'm an employer, I'm an employee, I've written books, I'm on TV, I'm on radio, multiple income streams. You cannot survive on one income. You cannot create wealth on one income. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. So we need to also normalize multiple income streams. This thing of being born into a job and dying in that job, unless you're the CEO with serious share options, the end.
Did you hear? The end. We have reached the end of our show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for tweeting, but keep the conversation going. It doesn't just end with us. Look, at something we can start today, starting with the small steps. It starts with you. It starts with me. Are you part of Generation Wealth? Let's start changing lives today. So there are real life examples of how people secure generational wealth, and Osin Tabileng has agreed to share with us her story.
Re kopane ko Van Dyk Park na le doctor. Ke ne na sebetsa closely mo ne ke sebetsa teng, ene le security guard. So nna le na re qadile o data ka di 1 tsa May and then ra sign ka di 15 tsa March 2015. Re na le bana ba 3, Lesego, Morena Junior. So ya Lesego e complicated nyana because it is simple. Morena kwa 2009 almost ka World Cup. And then Junior e o ne le Hani, o na le supported, o na le labor, ne ke na le yena until ke fetsa o paper because e ne le critical.
Our favorite things we like to do, chilling at home, like shopping, going to parks as a family, jog together in the morning at 6 o'clock, or just go out father-son bonding, or just watch TV together.
Ha COVID ne qala ke le bala ban retrench ne ke sebetsa company e nngwe mo Bedford View, so ko ba ne ke le subcontract azamba sa dumela o continue ka contract ya ka, then ba ra afula ko mosebetsing, so ka tlamela re ke dule high ene se le ena fela a re supportang ka montlong, ne se re dependile ho yena haholo. Msia o hlokofetse ka di 4 tsa May 2021 ka 12 o'clock. Nna le yena re ra bua over the phone before a hlokofala, ene e le 23:48 ha ne ke bua le yena. Ne ke le shocked ene ke tshuile ke ipotsa gore ke tlo phela jwang because re dependile ho yena, ntho ngwe le ngwe ne etsiwa ke yena. So for nna fear ya ka holo ene le gore ke tlo hodisa bana ka eng, re tlo survive jwang. Ke ile ka founela One Life ka ba tsebisa gore ntate ha sa leyo. So ever since anana le life cover le bona itse tšhelete ha e kena, ne ke le behind ka school fees sa bana, ke ile ka kgona gore ke patalle bana sekolo, ka patala le transport ya bona gore le bona ba ye sekolong jalo ka bana ba bang. E nngwe tšhelete ke e setseng ke ile ka investa re kgona ho tswela pele ka yona. So ke ile ka leboha One Life haholo, tshebedisano ya bona ene e le ntle haholo.
The thing I want to make my mom and dad proud is become a businessman. I want to buy my mom a big house, a mansion, cars, and everything she wants, as long as to make my mom and dad proud.
The plans I want to do in the future is to be a doctor, because my father wanted me to be a doctor. Like, I want to make him proud, and also my mom. I want to build my mom a house,
buy her a car, do everything she wants. Like I told my father that I will work hard to make my dreams come true and to make them proud of me.
Let's talk about R1 million life cover, 50,000 for funeral and 800,000 disability cover for only 397 Rand a month. SMS plan to 38925. One life, changing lives.